It took me 70 hours to beat Elden Ring. 7-0. I've talked about my experience before, but I feel like formalizing it in a review form is kind of going to be the thing I want to do. As we get into this, today's NarrowPress day, and there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about in general. I got a rating scale I want to talk about that I just recently made up based on streaming a little bit of Assassin's Creed Shadows. But I want to go over something I talked about on stream once, which was the AeroPresses. I like AeroPresses. This is the normal-sized AeroPress, which we'll be using today. This is an XL. This will give you 500 milliliters of coffee, which is a great amount. That is good for 2 people, maybe 1.5 people. But this is really, really good. There's another AeroPress that exists. There's the Go, which is in this cute little contained container. And if you take it out, it is roughly 3/4 of the size of the original AeroPress, which is great. This one I got for travel. I don't really use as much because the original AeroPress is actually not that big. This one also ships with this cool little filter container, so you're good to go. These are my AeroPresses. I like AeroPress. If you want to sponsor me AeroPress, feel free. As of right now, I've paid full price for every single one of these little guys. Well, I might have gotten one on sale, but they definitely don't have a partnership with me. So today's AeroPress day. We're going to get after it. I've been playing through a lot of different games on stream, and there's a life lesson to be learned here, and we'll get into it, about Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I've talked about how the open exploration was great, working hard at something and trying to learn it was great. All of it, the experience itself was fantastic, but there was something in particular that I didn't really notice was affecting me in a positive way until just recently. So if you've been following the journey of the channel for a while, you know that I get in these crazy panic emotes because I have unregulated emotions. Yeah, I don't do well with stress. It freaks me out. And with the uncertainty of the internet and making this my job, when it becomes stressful, I freak out. Someone made a comment to me in an email, which I thought was so powerful because I'm having to make some changes and stuff. And they're like, hey, man, I feel like you're like a farmer who's selling the tractor to save the farm, when in reality you need the tractor to farm. And I thought to myself, that's a powerful sentiment. I'm just also looking at my Naruto over here and realizing that my son touched it. It's all out of sorts. I moved a couple things around because I felt like there were too many books everywhere, and so I kind of changed it up. But the big thing that really hit home to me was I'm panic rolling. Yeah, I'm panic rolling in life. Full-blown panic rolling. Panic rolling is when you, in Elden Ring, or I guess Souls games in general, you dodge and you roll. And panic rolling is you basically just roll because you're like, I got to get away from all the danger. The danger is there. I have to get away from it. And in doing so, you end up using up a tremendous amount of your stamina. And then finally, when you have an opening to actually make any sort of move that's of consequence, holy crap, this allegory is going great. This example is insane. Whenever you have any sort of move to make some sort of progress to defeating the enemy or overcoming the foe or the obstacle in place, you end up having no stamina, so you might get one hit off, and it does well, but then you're now so close within range that once the enemy gains its stamina back or is unstaggered, you've done some damage, but now you are left highly vulnerable because you, used up all of your stamina, and now when there's more time to capitalize, you can't capitalize because you are pretty much out of any sort of stamina. And in a lot of ways, panic rolling, you get punished because you'll panic roll away from an enemy, and then they're able to do a giant, huge jump to close the gap. And in closing the gap, now you have no way of getting away, no way of attacking, and you're left vulnerable. I realized that over the past few weeks, I haven't made a cup in a while, I've been panic rolling. I've been finding myself, let's get this light a little bit better. There we go. Oh, now it's in shot. Come on, change it up. There we go. I've been finding myself in a spot where I'm extremely, extremely stressed and freaking out, and I'm panic rolling, making decisions that are like, I need to fix this. When in reality, and this is something that is crazy about Elden Ring, sometimes the right move is to get closer, to close the gap, so that when there's an opportunity to actually capitalize on that one brief moment, you're already poised in position in place. And I realize in life in general, and this is something that Elden Ring has taught me, in life in general, that is kind of how it works. In order for anything like great to take place, you have to be willing to close the gap between danger and, I guess, destination. I had to use another D word because that's how my brain works. Like, you need to be able to get as close as you can to that specific obstacle so that when the time is right, you either can clear it or you can chip away at it. This is something that when playing Elden Ring is absolutely paramount. You absolutely have to get as close as you can. There was a specific enemy that I was facing. I forgot exactly the name of it. Maybe for those of you who know what I'm talking about, It's this big giant serpent. And this serpent has a phase 1 and phase 2, as they always do. But there's a specific moment when facing this serpent where it's in lava. This thing's in lava. The Serpent King, whatever, has some sort of name. As it's in lava, you, of course, when you touch lava, not only do you slow down, but you take damage because, surprise, surprise, lava's bad for you. You don't want to be stepping in lava. And so what do you do when you're as close as you can, when you have to attack the enemy and they're in lava? Well, you go, okay, I got to be as safe as possible with this. I need to figure out a way to let the enemy come out of the lava so that I can adequately deal some damage without taking any. That's not how this enemy works. In fact, you can try to use long range, which is possible, sure, but you actually need to get in there. And there's a specific moment in the battle that I realized that the only way to defeat this foe was to actually not only get in the lava, stay in the lava. Yes, stay in the lava. Keep taking damage, because as the swings come, as the big heavy hits come, as there's more and more attacks being lobbed at you from this serpent, it actually goes over you. They're not able to make contact with you if you time your dodges right, because you are so close to them that they're actually passing over you with these giant, huge attacks. And in that moment, I realized, wow, this specific boss is programmed to trick you. You're supposed to be taking damage while dealing damage. And in doing so, you find yourself in a position where you're able to actually defeat the foe, which is precisely what happened. This is something that I've been thinking a lot about today. I feel like in life when you start to get stressed, let me rephrase this. I feel like in life when I start to get stressed, I'm going to do a few things that are impossible, but they are the reason why I get the way I am. There are two things. We'll start with one called time traveling. And I swear, I'll get to the review of Elden Ring eventually in this. Time traveling. With time traveling, it's living in the future. Going as far in the future as you can to figure out the outcome of something that hasn't yet taken place, that may never take place, or worse yet, doesn't exist. This is anxiety launching you into the stratosphere and taking you out of present and keeping you in the future, right? A lot of us have heard plan, future goals, all that stuff, which is great. But unfortunately, it gets misconstrued and often gets completely decimated by anxiety in my case. And so I time travel. After time traveling, I now start to internally, because your brain's super powerful, my wife likes to remind me of that, I start to internally live through some of these anxious things multiple times. The situation that may exist hasn't yet existed or may never come to fruition, but I am living it either way. Manifestation is something that is used often, a term that I think is often linked to some silliness, right? If you like manifestation, great. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with visualization and understanding that if you visualize it enough, maybe in that moment, that visualization, you might be able to bring it forth. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, the idea itself seems a little wonky at times. Let's taste it. That's some tasty coffee. So, understanding that you can bring positivity to your life and actually live, be like, oh, I want certain things to happen, so I'm going to visualize it as much as I can, and then your brain actually thinks that it's happening, and so then you end up making it happen. That's good. You can also do that with bad. And that's something that I've realized I've been living in for a long time. Not saying that, today we're turning a corner. No, I think observation and understanding is the first step, of course, realizing, there's something that's taking place. But I've been panic rolling. That is my equivalent of panic rolling, saying like, oh, this specific move set that I know can exist because I know that the boss, when they swing their hammer around, they're going to bring it down. I'm just going to panic roll away, when in reality, I misread it. That's not actually the move set. In fact, it's an opening, and that opening is one that I could take advantage of. But if I continuously stay in this panic state, this panic rolling state, I will never have stamina. I will never have energy. I will never have any sort of continued drive to move forward, to overcome any obstacle. And in a lot of ways, it ends up getting you to a position where you just end up giving up. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what day it was. It was some day in the past 72 hours. I completely gave up. I was like, this is all she wrote. This isn't the first time this has happened to me. I've done this countless times. But in doing so, I'm like, I just can't keep doing this thing. I'm out of energy. I'm out of stamina. I have to, quit to desktop, dude. I just can't keep doing it. When in reality, all I needed to do was stop panic rolling. Time is this crazy thing. And with Elden Ring, something that I appreciated so much about the game is it doesn't waste your time, right? So again, I said I beat the game in 70 hours with both the DLC and the actual game itself, the hard game. I'd say that realistically, gameplay-wise, it probably was closer to 65 hours, sitting in menus, pause screens while I'm streaming, this, that, and the other. Probably closer to 65 hours. I genuinely enjoyed it. I didn't sit there and try to painstakingly go through every boss. I certainly didn't explore every nook and cranny. I went through the game naturally as it progressed me. Like, it pushed me to certain areas. I did it. I played it. I had a good time. I decided to play it with a strength build, and I would say 100%, if you're looking to play this game, if you're looking like, hey, should I get Elden Ring? 100%. The combat is really good, super approachable. Take some time to learn. Very, very understandable. You choose your weapon. My suggestion is just pick one weapon set, one move set, and use it. And when you use it, master it, upgrade it, and just stick with that for your first playthrough. After you get used to it, after you master it, then you can come back and try other ones. I mean, what an allegory for life, right? Pick one lane, stick in it, master that lane. Once you've mastered it, then start to branch out into other areas. Something that advice I wish I could take, I could have taken a year, maybe 2 years ago. But the best time to build a tree is 10 years ago, or plant a tree is 10 years ago, and the second best time is today. So why not always start over? Cheers to me and always starting over. At least this time it's more mentally than actually in reality. As the game progresses in general, you end up discovering new things, new areas, new mechanics. Or a couple times when you're handed a weapon to use on a boss, that crazy fire snake, absolutely use the weapon they hand you. But when you're playing through the game itself, the self-discovery, personally, and the discovery in the game is magnificent. Understanding more and more how the game works, the different ways that it helps you, and the tremendous amount of lore that is packed into every single item description, as well as any sort of actual gameplay, like the lore and the videos, it's great. The game gets out of the way of itself, so like it is truly an experience rather than a movie. I recently just started to watch, I say it that way intentionally, watch Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah, I played the first couple hours, and I was sitting there watching basically a samurai movie. It was fine. I didn't dislike it. I don't know how much of the game I'm going to be able to get through in general, just because I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not going to make any promises there. But that game itself is such a different experience than something like Elden Ring. With Elden Ring, I mean, I don't think it's on sale anymore, but like when you find a sale on it, I think it's worth the buy. Now, someone's like, should I get the DLC as well? Here's the thing with the DLC, and I think that this is something you should just weigh. When looking at the DLC of the game, it's more of Elden Ring. The story continues if you like the gameplay, but what the DLC feels like is when you first start playing Elden Ring for the first time, if you're not a seasoned Souls game, whatever, there's a learning curve. The DLC implements nothing new other than maybe some weapons. The combat is similar. Everything's the same, but the difficulty increases so much so that learning curve is now reintroduced. You now have to relearn how to be more tactical, more diplomatic with your movesets, whether or not you're going to use additional aid with summons or, whatever it may be. You just have to relearn it, and that's how it is. So if you enjoyed your first 10 hours of Elden Ring, the DLC is essentially that experience all over again with cool new bosses, cool new stuff. Like, super fun experience. I enjoyed it. I genuinely did. I caught on to the combat in the game relatively quickly, so it never felt to me frustrating. It felt a little repetitive at a couple moments, but it really didn't feel frustrating. And I would say, as far as my rating is concerned, it gets what I call a super Shaka. If you want to see it, I'll show you. That's a super Shaka. We have a rating scale of 5 right now, and so that's going to be a 1, which is just a 1. So that's 1. We have a 2. We have a 3. We have a 4, and now we have a 5. We can get more granular if you want to go all the way up to 10. We can get, with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Either way, it gets a super Shaka for me because the game itself is just spectacular. Let me know in the comments if you want a 1 to 10 or a 1 to 5. And we'll stick with that for games. But as I reminisce on the experience and I look at some of the past couple of weeks of just complete and utter terror that I've lived outside of what I'm doing here, just stressed out and not managing my emotions well, I realize that the game is such a perfect representation of my experience outside of the game, which is, as I first started down the road of Elden Ring, I saw a huge giant enemy, the Tree Sentinel, bash my head against the wall undiplomatically to prove to myself that I could do this thing. And realizing that there was very little it had to offer me off rip, and as I continued through the game, I realized, great, I defeated the Tree Sentinel, but that's just not really necessary. Baby steps. Those baby steps, when done in succession, add to themselves. There's specific order of operations, understanding movesets, how to properly utilize weapons and different things, how to learn for traps that actually set you back rather than propel you forward, how to fail gracefully, and not just fail gracefully, but use those failures to learn and move forward. And along with moving forward from those failures, how to become stronger like a Saiyan, like Goku, Vegeta, whatever, and move into a better spot to where you are more capable, you are more dangerous against your foes, your enemies, and more likely to be confident through some of those more challenging times. This in and of itself is just such a beautiful reminder of how any of us should approach life when it comes to complicated and somewhat challenging things. But the biggest thing that I am reflecting on is the idea of, as I said at the beginning, panic rolling. And how as you learn the game, as you become better at the game, as you seemingly can, get through anything, there is still the urge when your back's up against the wall to panic roll. And all panic rolling does is get you out of the way for a brief moment, but then you are incapable of properly carrying out any sort of tactical maneuvering, attacks, or eventually with that second barrage, third barrage, or fourth barrage, really properly defend yourself. This, for me, is something that I take to heart. I'm not going to get too personal because some stuff I need to learn to keep to myself. But when it comes to endeavors, when it comes to any sort of risky things that you might make, the reward, tremendous. But sometimes, just sometimes, you need to take a step back, and maybe rolling isn't the answer. Maybe it's jumping. Maybe it's not rolling back, but rolling in. Maybe it's leaning in at times. And maybe it's swallowing your pride and asking for some help, getting that summon, being like, you know what? It's time to allow for someone to come help me. Look it up online. Use that buff, whatever it may be. And this is something that I think I need to lean into more. If you're interested in being a part of streams or anything like that, you can join us on twitch.tv/JDXCoffee. You can hop into the Discord. The link will be in all of the streams. It's not here. It's on the streams because I am trying to drive traffic over to the streams. Currently running through some fun titles and trying to figure out, what is out there, what kind of games are worth playing, what am I enjoying, and what can I share with the community. I'm trying to play through Monster Hunter Wilds. I think that's a fun one, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with as many people as possible. So if you found any sort of value in what I had to say, I would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and was a part of this. If you want to be a part of those live streams, Twitch is where you can have it, and I do have YouTube, and that's all going to be linked below as well for the VODs and stuff like that. So enjoy your coffee today. I hope this meant something, and yeah, it's good making a cup again. Yeah, it is warm. I need to get out of this. So you guys are awesome. And for the first time in a while, play more and be kind. See ya. Oh, hey, look, a Shaka.